This is the Broker Advisory Workgroup, and I do have antitrust statement to start off with that RESO strives to increase competition in the marketplace and will not be a forum for anti-competitive conduct. The RESO antitrust policy governs the activities of RESO and its members, including this meeting. A link to the policy was emailed to you with the meeting agenda. Please consult RESO's counsel if you have any questions about the policy. Now that we got the business stuff out of the way, we do have a drawing. I've got a wonderful end table right here, Yeti cooler. I'm not sure that it actually qualifies as a carry-on, but if I won it, I would totally try to make it a carry-on. So must be present to win. And since I know too many names on this list, I'm gonna close my eyes and go to the next page. And Ben Martin. Is there a Ben Martin in the room? Ben, congratulations. All right, good deal. I think there's actually a box in the back if you prefer to carry it that way, so congrats. Awesome. All right, good deal. Well, I am very excited today. We've got a great panel for you. So my name is Jeff Bosch. I'm the chair for the Broker Advisory Work Group, and I will let you two ladies introduce yourself.
Jessica Edgerton, EVP of Operations and Corporate Counsel with leading real estate companies of the world.
Nina Dosanjh, I'm the Chief Technology and Strategy Officer at Vanguard Properties. We're an independent brokerage in the San Francisco Bay Area and also a proud leading real estate companies of the world member.
There you go. So I am looking forward to a good conversation today. Jessica, you oversee a lot at LeadingRE, but I understand there's a new CIO there. Is that correct?
There is. There is one less thing under me now, which is a good thing for everyone. I oversee education, learning development, industry relations, and some other stuff. Historically, when I first came on board, LeadingRE is an organically growing company, and I was sort of placed over a very well-run, very well-operated IT department. But as we continued to grow, and I'm a lawyer, I'm not a data person, so I was doing the budgeting, and I was doing sort of the strategic planning, and I was, but IT, sort of being able to get in the weeds with my team, I was not. As we grew and as our member companies continued to look to us for consultative and IT resource, as a consultative and IT based resource, we realized that we needed a real IT guru in charge of that department. We have recently hired Vandana Vora, who is our new Chief Information Officer, and she is making incredible changes for us as an organization and also for our network. So unfortunately, she could not be here today. I was hoping to have her up here to support me with the more technical details.
She is with us virtually.
She is with us virtually, but you will all hopefully get to meet her soon. And she's an incredible resource and has taken an immediate deep dive into RESO. She comes from the pension world, she comes from outside real estate. And when we first onboarded Vandana, we made a joke that we were fire hosing her. And then we realized after about 3 days, she had grappled the fire hose from us and had turned it 180 degrees and has already really infused herself into the meat of what our industry needs from a data perspective. So we love her.
Fantastic, that's awesome. And yesterday we saw a lot of hands that this was several people's first time at RESO. So maybe tell the audience a little bit about what LeadingRE is.
Sure. LeadingRE is a member-based organization. Our roots are in broker-to-broker referrals, and that continues to be one of the prime attractors for our members. It's invitation only. Our members are comprised of the top 5 independent real estate firms in any geographic region, and have to be top 10 overall. So it's very, very selective. And we are an organization that now has 565 member companies in over 70 countries around the world and growing. And in terms of the services that we provide, yes, originally we were focused on broker-to-broker referral, but since then, especially as we onboard smaller to mid-sized companies, and in some cases large companies, we've also continued to expand our portfolio of supplemental services. So we offer everything from educational services, consultative services, a robust marketing portfolio. Luxury portfolio is a department standing on its own, which offers luxury services specific for luxury marketing and beyond.
Okay, fantastic. And you're also a RESO director.
I am a RESO director.
RESO director, and there is a word in your bio that you compare to RESO, which is Esperanto.
Yes, so that was actually written a couple of years ago, and it was a bit tongue-in-cheek. So for those of you who don't know, Esperanto was a language that was sort of in a utopian vein, developed in the late 1880s as a universal language. It was very rough going to get it to take off, for obvious reasons, and sort of clunkily fell to the wayside. Sometimes people learn Esperanto sort of as a hobby or an affinity. And when I said that, the message wasn't that that's the direction that RESO is going. In fact, that's exactly the opposite. But sometimes as we grapple to get stickiness in the industry with our RESO standards, it may feel that way, right? The reason why I think I probably need to update that reference in my bio is as I've gotten more involved in the organization and seen the way of RESO in terms of the integration and the cornerstone that it is for our industry, and we'll talk about this more, including as we continue to create efficiencies globally, RESO ain't no Esperanto.
There you go, there you go. Fantastic. Well, you mentioned how big your network is, multiple countries, multiple brokerages. So how do you collect input on individual tech challenges, pain points? How do you track them? How do you pull that all together?
We are as I mentioned, member-based organization, and I think this audience will deeply appreciate this. As a member-based organization, we love us some committees and subcommittees and task forces and work groups, and we have put that actually into very good effect when it comes to interacting with our members to collect information about what the pain points and needs are from an international standpoint. We have a global advisory board, which is 14 international members, 14 different countries. And as part of that, we have a sub-advisory work group, which is our IT work group. That work group is tasked with working directly with our staff. Vandana oversees that communication to the best of their abilities, not represent their own particular needs in their own particular regions, but really collect information downstream from GAB, communicate that to our IT department and to our marketing departments and our other departments to really ensure that we are where there is sort of universal points, providing the services and products that we can. Now that said, you've got 70 countries, you've got 565 brokerages. There are no universal needs necessarily. There's no sort of one size fits all, except for, and this is something we'll talk about more, really sort of the three items that are addressed by standardization, which is speed, accuracy, and access to services. So as we continue to integrate ourselves more fully as a network into RESO, I think the commonality for what everybody needs is this.
Fantastic.
So I would say, as an international organization, you are probably getting data in multiple languages and different formats. How do you see RESO standards kind of simplifying that for you?
I think calling it multiple formats is probably a little bit of a
stretch?
Understatement. We have, again, grown organically. We're now up over 70 countries. But as we grew, we started realizing, we've got two public-facing, consumer-facing websites. We've got our luxury portfolio website, which is sort of the luxury porn filler for our members. It's a listing. There's listings for our members, member exclusive. And then there's also an integration of luxury branding.
And by luxury, we're saying over $1 million.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which, arguable in this day and age, but yes. And then we have our LeadingRE website, which is also a big draw for our members because that is another public-facing portal. So as we have grown, including internationally, we have sort of, the culture of our company is white glove. We have taken what is given to us, which now recently has resulted in us taking in 150 different forms of data, which, as you can imagine, I mean, God bless our IT department, it has been a challenge, right? Especially during the onboarding process. We are now looking at standardization. We've been working for a year. Vandana has been instrumental in speeding this up. We are now working towards moving those 150 data intake processes down to 3. We have developed our own RESO-based API. We have developed our own RESO-based XML feed, and especially for some of our smaller international companies, we have also developed our own RESO-based manual entry process. So we're getting there. We're getting there, thanks to RESO.
Yes, so RESO added Spanish and French Canadian layers to the data dictionary. What languages do you think are next?
So in terms of need, I mean, and I'm speaking from a little bit of a biased standpoint. We've got our members where we've got our members, so take that into account. But I mean, first of all, we're growing hugely in the APAC region, and that doesn't help when you ask about languages because you've got 2,300, not dialects, individual languages in the APAC region. So we're not going to go there yet. But when you look at sort of the top 3 of the most spoken languages in the APAC region, you've got Mandarin Chinese, standardized Chinese, you've got Hindi, and then you have Indonesian, actually. We have a large presence in Indonesia. We actually have a member in China as well. We have yet to break ground in India, but we will get there. So I would say start there. Because the broader we can get, the better it'll be. Now, I also have to say, I mean, 2.0, we've got French Canadian, right? Yay. But I would say French is actually the 3rd most common spoken language in Europe. It's also a unifier as people travel across Europe. Very often that's sort of the default language. So I would say since we have regional Canadian French, it would probably be a wise thing to look at how that can then flow through to French, European French. It also touches South America, right? You've got teeny tiny, but you know, you've got French speaking in South America, and then 20 African nations as well. We do not have enough. I think Africa as a continent sometimes gets ignored. We need, and we are starting to build a LeadingRE presence there as well. So let's look at French. 3rd, skipping back to number 2 on the European list, is German. German is the 2nd most common spoken language after Russian in Europe. And German is another very much a unifier when it comes to European commonalities. So, yeah.
So are you asking your international brokers now to send you data in a standardized way?
Absolutely. Those 3 formats that we talked about before, our API, our XML, and our manual feed, we are absolutely, as we onboard new members, that's sort of the automatic process. Now, of course, the challenge is retroactively working with our members that we have white gloved for a long time with our 150 feeds. But as we can, I know, this is true. But as we continue to grow, our members do understand that this kind of standardization works for the whole, especially as they look to cross-pollination of data where appropriate within the network. So again, we're getting there. It is not a one-stop shop. It's not a panacea yet, but.
Well, Vanguard Properties is testing the web, beta testing the web API, and so we're really excited about that. You guys have done an amazing job, and Vandana has really just kind of turned that whole thing around for everyone. So,
she has.
Yeah.
And I have to give a huge shout out to Vanguard, to Nina, and to the rest of our members, because we would not be able to do that if it wasn't for that beta process, for that, you know, cyclical input of where we need to tweak. And that's going to last forever as we continue to bring in new sort of data cultures around the world.
And kind of tying into that, one of the things we talked about before too, before we get past that, is currency and measurement.
Yes. So we also, just within our own data entry processes, are accommodating the differences for measurement, standard measurements, which of course differ around the globe, and also for currencies. Now, I heard, I think, Sam earlier say, you know, when it comes to our wheelhouse, we need to use caution, stay within our lines. But I think over time, as we continue to expand globally, these are areas that we can look to as a RESO organization.
Okay. And kind of, you know, talked about that white glove and then trying to get them into standardization, but you also mentioned something about self-serve type.
Yes. So one of the issues, and I think you picked up on it before, that we've had is that white glove service that we've provided, which again, our IT team is superhuman, but as we grow, we needed to create some serious efficiencies. Vandana has taken a look at those processes and created interfaces where our members really can not only self-serve with troubleshooting, but also really ensure that their data is being pushed to the website on their own schedule and allows them to have transparency into exactly what is happening in real time.
Very good. And you know, one of the conversations we also had is, you know, sometimes like very large entities can field like an industry rep person. Like we had Caitlin McCrory on the stage at the last RESO. And you know, how in an organization like yours where there's so many entities and so many different countries, who typically is the shepherd for that connection with the industry?
There is no typically. I wish there was, but there is not. And you know, I mean, we're not, you know, we've got Vanguards, we've got big established companies who have CTOs, CIOs, you wear both hats. That then is very often the starting point. And you know, I'll let Nina address that too in terms of her organization. But when it comes to our small to mid-sized and very, very boutique, especially globally, often it's a multiple hat situation where the marketing person is also the primary contact for IT, where the social media person is also the primary contact for IT, where in some circumstances, the broker is the primary contact for IT.
Or the admin.
Or the admin is the primary, or the admin's nephew who is good at IT is the primary contact for IT. So I would suggest as people look to making those contacts, especially with the small folks, start with the C-suite because no matter what, they are gonna want oversight over those conversations, especially small and mid-sized. You know, where would you add being on the ground?
I mean, I would say, you know, this is, I think, a large portion of where MLSs really can help independent brokers kind of understand what options are available to them. Oftentimes, you know, you are talking to that, you know, admin or the broker, and they really don't understand what they can do with their data. So I think it's kind of an empowering point from the MLS standpoint to be able to reach out to those independent brokers that might have the onesie twosie or the admin doing, you know, certain tasks. And give them the option. And I think, you know, you mentioned something where you're like, we want the brokers to be able to tell us, how often do you want this done? Do you want the data pulled every 5 minutes? Do you want it every 10 minutes? Do you want it every 2 days? Like, and that kind of option for the broker isn't often given to them. So, yeah.
I agree. And the other point too, especially as you look to work internationally, small to mid-sized, is another one of the services that we have sort of on the consultative side is our solutions group partners. We've got a number of them in the audience right now, Constellation One, Moxie, Tribus. I'm gonna get in trouble. I love all of the solutions group partners. But when our small to mid-sized folks are looking at where they need to expand, this isn't just about data provision when it comes to who is in that tranche of sort of elite vendors. It's also a consultative role. They really want to hear from all of those top-notch vendors as to what they should be thinking about.
Fantastic. And so we talked about maybe the point person, right? So what do these organizations or the individual brokerage look to LeadingRE for guidance, or what do you strive to provide them as resources?
Again, it's sort of an it depends answer because of the nature of what LeadingRE does. We represent independent, siloed entities, right? And so in 70 countries. And so there is no sort of one product or service that is necessarily looked to. But I can say that education and consultation is huge. Education is one of the umbrellas that I oversee, and one of the things actually in my 2023 business plan, Sam's not here, Sam, surprise, that I want to do with RESO is we've got our own learning management platform. We've just given it a huge shine up and upgrade, modernization, which is Vandana's term. And what I want to ensure, and this is the gateway for learning for so many of our member companies, what I want to ensure is that all RESO education, including working with real estate data and other educational opportunities that we can have via that pathway to socialize RESO, we are taking advantage of. So, I mean, really, when it comes down to it, education, consultation, I don't know, what do you like about us, Nina?
Yeah, I mean, it really makes a local company global, and I think that that is the primary benefit for independent companies, and it's something that we, our agents really benefit from because they can reach out to somebody, in Paris or, wherever in the world, and it makes that local agent and, independent companies, yes, we are a dying breed, but, but there are a lot of us, 565 members. So we are still there, and I think that's the powerful piece of it, is it really makes a local company global.
I agree, and to that point, actually, one of the other items that we have, because we can't provide unique services to every single one of our members, we provide toolkits, and one of our very popular ones is our website quality certification program, which instead of providing sort of direct website services, which again can be worked, our solutions group partners do that. We, from an in-house perspective, are not designing websites, but what it does is really help, especially our small to mid-sized members, look at their website, work with this toolkit, and shine themselves up. And also, member-based organization, we love us our awards.
Yes.
And we do, for our WQC certified companies, we also have an ancillary award for best overall website within the network, which is a highly coveted prize as well. So.
Gotcha. Well, and I think we covered whether the broker is or isn't the tech person. So Nina, I'll let you take the next question.
Yeah, so, LeadingRE is building a web API. Are you asking your international brokers to send you data?
We are asking them, and again, especially on the front end as it comes to our new folks, we have, the white glove won't go away, right? We are not saying to everybody, do this or get out. We have to use a carrot approach rather than a stick approach. But as we are onboarding, and again, this goes back to the educational component, we say, here is your buffet of choices. It is not 150 or 151 as we onboard you. It is 3. Talk to us about what you would like to see happen. And again, that process of talking them through that is an educational process, and one where our IT team really is servicing our members, not just from an IT and sort of data connection standpoint, but also from a consultative standpoint.
And you're actually already beta testing that, correct?
We are beta testing, so we are in beta with actually 6 companies globally on our API. For the XML and for the manual feed, we are pre-beta, but we've also been getting a lot of sort of organic pre-beta feedback and input from our members as we develop those. It's been a process.
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of prop tech kind of entry into the real estate space, and many of those companies are US based, but some are international. But for the US based companies, what would you say are the important things that they should consider when working with brokerages?
Internationally. So first and foremost, make no assumptions about local business practices or local regulations. In Europe, for example, we have no MLS, right? And so we have no IDX. We also, though, so there isn't going to be sort of this brokerage to brokerage technology in place. But that doesn't mean that that is necessarily a need that needs to be filled because of local practices, because we have non-exclusive listing across broad swaths of Europe and other areas of the country or other areas of the globe. If you've got an XML feed and you're splishing, it's a technical term, right? Listings.
Splishing.
Splishing.
Somebody hashtag that.
Data dictionary. next term. We would then have the issue of a listing that is owned very close to the chest by broker A being displayed on the website of their direct competitor down the street. If a buyer walks into broker B down the street, sees that listing, guess what? Buyer A that has that listing is going to lose that commission. So you need to be aware of sort of what is going on. Another item, because we don't have MLSs in, again, Europe and beyond, you think we've got problems with dupes? You know, the feeds are coming in for the public portals from dozens of places. So it's not just like an identical dupe situation. We've also got listings from multiple brokers where you've got different price points depending on how they work their commissions. I mean, it is ugly. And I have to say, one of my sort of hot topics, lawyer wonk hat here, is watching this antitrust mess that sort of we're all kind of under the pall of right now. I think all of us should be lobbying for all of those judges and all of those regulators to go over to Portugal and try to buy a beach house in Portugal before they say that anything about our system is anti-competitive, because...
Yes. So, you know, we know probably what your US-based companies kind of, they are aware of RESO, but when you talk to your international brokers about RESO and kind of standards in that way, what's the response from them?
Overall, very, very positive. Again, this is part of the educational process. As we onboard new members, Vandana has been instrumental in and her team have been instrumental in talking through exactly why standardizations are required. And I mean, there's a little bit of a stickiness, and I think that there is some initial hesitancy because, again, depending on where we are working with, they may think, oh, you know, standardization, MLS, this is not going to work for my business model. So it's a process. But going back to sort of the initial point that we started with, the universal refrain across all of our brokerages, no matter where they are, is we need accuracy, we need speed, and we need access to services. And again, with the education, the solution for that is industry standardization, is RESO. So really, really proud to be a part of this organization and to have LeadingRE continue to work sort of organically as a little bit of an odd duck in the RESO space. We are not an MLS. We are not a transaction-based brokerage. We are our own very specific entity. But I think it goes to show that in the RESO ecosystem, there is a place for every unique kind of entity in our industry.
So a lot of embracing of standardization, but not necessarily ready to go after a standardized feed like IDX or anything like that. Not really a place for that.
We are still, the word continues to be bespoke. But as we continue to do that, again, boiling it down from 150 to 3 options is sort of the first step.
And one thing I don't want to miss, because it did come up, tell us about GDPR.
Okay, yes, so going back to the European questions, right? I talked about the differences in what you need to be aware of. GDPR dropped 2019, general data privacy regulation across Europe. It is absolutely instrumental that you be aware of this as you approach those situations. And it's not just about sort of what you need to do from sort of cookies and policies on your website and all the rest of it. It actually can cause some hiccups from sort of a data intake perspective. Because GDPR is all about ensuring privacy for personal data, when it comes to home addresses, you are not necessarily going to be able to take in address feeds like 161 Main Street. You may very well be looking at coordinates, map coordinates, based on big geographic landmarks, for example, or in some cases, small geographic landmarks, the fountain in the middle of town, and working your way to locations from there. So when you hear GDPR, that sort of settled down as people figure out the cookie buttons and all the rest of it. Be aware as you move into European markets that that isn't just about the policies. It can be about the technicality as well. And getting those coordinates and getting those landmarks it's an art. So be ready.
So it's not only tough to buy the beach house in Portugal, it's tough to find.
Literally to find the beach house in Portugal.
There you go.
Or at least to map the coordinates on the website.
There you go. Well, as we close up, I know one of the other things that you've really brought in and that you're passionate about is education. So how do you see education in the real estate space and RESO going together?
Again, I think it's 9/10 education when it comes to working with a network like ours, especially for our small to mid-size, that sort of consultative approach to data, really allowing brokerages and the decision makers in the IT space to have a full conception of why this is so important, not just in terms of efficiency, but also in terms of competition, right? As you are looking for those small to mid-size to be able to compete with the big box brokerages down the way, the Caitlins, love you Caitlin, but this is what independents are, this is what independents are looking at from a competition standpoint. What do we do to allow them to have the same kind of data efficiencies that the Caitlins of the world do have?
Fantastic, awesome. Well, this has been great. Any closing thoughts before we go?
I have one. What
RESO.
a rock star, right? What a rock star. I'm a total fangirl.
I'm a fangirl right back.
I've been watching Jessica for a long time, and it's an honor to share the stage with you.
Likewise.
And our chair, Jeff, he's amazing
Yes,
too. I can fangirl on him too.
Clap for them. Clap for them. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
We appreciate your guys' time.